ride a wild river, gaze into the maw of an active volcano, visit a tropical rain or cloud forest, catch a huge Pacific sailfish, experience pre-Columbian treasures, get close to exotic animals and reptiles, and soak up the color of a faraway land with a throbbing primitive beat. Do all this without having to travel to a half-dozen countries or spend incredible amounts of money. All this and much more can be found in one small country just a short flight south of the United States. This is the best of Costa Rica. Even though it's a little smaller than the state of West Virginia, Costa Rica is one of the most biologically diverse countries in the world. From the sun-splashed beaches of the Atlantic and Pacific to the cattle ranches of the lowlands, the coffee plantations in the highlands, to 12,000-foot peaks, Costa Rica has it all. Costa Rica boasts a diverse economy with low unemployment, one of the highest literacy rates in the world, more than 100 years of democracy and no army. While other nations in the region have suffered through years of political unrest and war, Costa Rica has remained stable and even played peacemaker, a role which brought former President Oscar Arias a Nobel Peace Prize. The nation's stability, coupled with a relatively low cost of living and warm climate, have attracted thousands of Americans to retire here. Costa Rica is located in Central America between Nicaragua to the north and Panama to the southeast. More than 2.8 million people live in Costa Rica's 7 provinces, about 40% of them in and around the capital of San Jose. And for most visitors, San Jose is the starting point for any travel or sporting adventure. Juan Santa Maria Airport is located just outside the city. This is where you'll arrive after a 2 to 3 hour flight from Los Angeles or Miami. Unless business keeps you in the capital, you'll most likely be headed into the countryside. But take some time to see at least some of San Jose. It will give you a feel for the country and its people who, for the most part, are friendly and accommodating. Most visitors spend at least one night in San Jose, where there are some fine hotels. We would recommend the Palacio on the outskirts of the city, or the Herradura, which is midway between the airport and downtown. Both are a relatively inexpensive cab ride from the heart of the city. And the Holiday Inn and several other good hotels are right downtown. Many of the places of interest in San Jose can be reached on foot. Driving and parking can be difficult. For those who want to know more about the history of Costa Rica, the National Museum is a must visit. It traces Costa Rican history through the artifacts of pre-Columbian times, Spain's failed colonization, and the rout of an invading army from Nicaragua headed by U.S. adventurer William Walker, who wanted to control all of Central America. This is one of several museums devoted to art, religion, and industry. Another way to get a feel for the people, they call themselves ticos, is to visit one of the large plazas or parks. Most teem with people, all sorts of people, throughout the day and much of the night. There are street vendors, artists, tourists, school children, people taking a break from nearby offices, retirees, and entertainers. As you can see, the plaza has an energy all its own. Costa Rica's National Theater is right next to this plaza, and it's worth a short visit. Throughout the city, you'll find shops filled with the arts and crafts of the region, a souvenir hunter's paradise. A word of warning, though, the official currency is the colon. Few establishments accept American dollars. You can swap your dollars for colones at the airport, your hotel, or banks. Even though the language here is Spanish, you won't have much trouble in the tiendas or shops. Many ticos speak at least some English, or you can simply point out your selections. The same is true in San Jose restaurants, and there are many good ones. There are a lot of friendly people around, and someone is usually willing to help out. Some of the most photographed landmarks in Costa Rica are the many churches and cathedrals. That's because so many of them have that old world flavor, and many date from the early 1800s. Now let's leave San Jose behind and head out on a real adventure. Many people who visit Costa Rica are most interested in the natural beauty of the land. We take a small tour bus north, and as we climb through the foothills, we pass through coffee and flower-growing regions. Coffee was one of Costa Rica's early cash crops, and flowers are a more recent export. It's easy to see that Costa Rica is a very fertile land. Many tours leave San Jose early in the morning. That means breakfast on the road and desayuno típico de Costa Rica, a typical Costa Rican breakfast of black beans and rice, eggs, tortillas, and homegrown coffee. It's delicious, if not quite what you're used to starting the day out with. Many of these places also have small shops selling souvenirs and arts and crafts from the region. Not far from this restaurant is the picturesque La Paz waterfall, which has a small shrine almost in the spray from the cascading waters. It's a great place to snap a picture or two. The waterfall is just down the mountain from the famed Poas volcano, which is the center of Poas National Park. You can hike to the edge of the crater of this still active volcano and watch periodic geyser eruptions. There are more than 100 volcano craters in Costa Rica, including the active and sometimes dangerous Poas, Arenal, and Irasu volcanoes. Heading north once again, we soon arrive at Puerto Viejo, a settlement on the Rio Sarapiquí. This is a jumping-off point for river and jungle nature tours, and it's a supply port for the ranches along the river. There are no roads leading eastward to the Caribbean. Riverboats and air charters are the only ways to get to the coast. If you want to get back to nature, this is a fascinating way to do it. You'll pass cattle ranches, small remote settlements, hunters in dugout canoes, natives just going visiting. The river is a lifeline to a variety of people. After an hour or so, the Sarapiquí flows into the Rio San Juan, which forms the border with Nicaragua from here to the east coast. A few more miles brings the boat into the Rio Colorado, which leads to Barra del Colorado, a name shared by a coastal town and a national park. This is a prime destination for anglers and nature lovers. There are several lodges and camps here which specialize in tarpon and snook fishing, and most also operate nature tours along the rivers and into nearby jungle. Isla de Pesca is a typical fishing camp. While it couldn't be described as ritzy, it is clean and comfortable, and the food is tasty and plentiful. If you're into fishing or exploring, a certain amount of roughing it comes with the territory. This is one of the best places in the world to catch tarpon, the Silver King. A hookup with one of these battlers on light tackle and you're in for a lengthy tussle. Tarpon are caught in the rivers and along the shore in the Caribbean, as are snook, another tough fighter.
He cut that one line. All right, you're gonna let him go.
A fishing trip in this part of Costa Rica is also a nature tour. You're likely to see howler monkeys and big iguanas in the trees, big caimans on the riverbanks, and a variety of other animals, birds, trees, and flowers. Many people who stay at Barra del Colorado also take a side trip to Tortuguero National Park. Located along a Caribbean beach, this is an area where huge sea turtles crawl onto the beach at night to lay their eggs. Naturalists have been studying the turtles here for more than 30 years. It's possible to fly here from San Jose and stay at the Tortuga Lodge, which offers nature tours and fishing trips. There are English-speaking naturalists and volunteers who will guide national park visitors to the turtle nesting areas.
Okay, everybody, this is what we found. This is a green turtle, and it's just finished laying her eggs, and now she's covering the hole where she's laid quite a few eggs, maybe up to 65 eggs. And so she's covering it, and she's planning to go back to the ocean.
When it's time to leave the Barra del Colorado area, you might choose to forego the 4-hour boat ride back to Puerto Viejo in favor of a 1-hour plane trip to San Jose. Lodges can arrange a charter flight or tickets on Sansa, Costa Rica's domestic airline, which serves the area. A plane ride will give you a whole different perspective of this extraordinary country. Many people who visit Costa Rica prefer to rent a car and be on their own. The major roads are generally in good condition, and popular destinations such as national parks are well marked. Along major roadways such as the Inter-American Highway headed west and northwest, there are plenty of restaurants and gas stations. Drive with caution in rural areas because you're liable to come across a slow-moving carreta or ox cart on the road. During the drive, you'll cross many rivers, some of them pretty wild. And if you're into whitewater rafting, this is one of the best places in the hemisphere to do it. Many visitors from the United States and Europe come here just for the rafting. It's not difficult to find companies and individual guides who will take you on a whitewater trip of a lifetime. On the journey west, take a side trip to the Monte Verde Cloud Forest. This is a private reserve, not a part of the national park system, but it is open to the public. As the name implies, the mountain is often shrouded in mist. If you visit here, bring rain gear, boots, and camera protection because the rain is virtually a constant. The humidity is almost always 100%, making the forest lush, green, and often impenetrable. This is a place of incredible beauty, where orchids grow wild and hummingbirds seem to flit everywhere, feasting on the nectar of the flowers. Being in a tropical zone, Costa Rica teems with insects. It's a paradise for researchers. American entomologist Dr. Dan Jansen works in the Santa Rosa region near Nicaragua. He is attempting the monumental task of identifying and cataloging every species of moth there. And there are hundreds, 70 varieties of the sphinx moth alone. Jansen spends long nights in the jungle collecting specimens attracted by his lights. Another group of scientists specialize in the study of leafcutter ants. They are the most voracious herbivores in the forest. Columns of ants chop leaves and carry them down the trees to huge subterranean structures where they feed on the fungus coating the leaves. The underground nests are so large that it takes a bulldozer to excavate one for study. Costa Rica's golden toads have long fascinated scientists, photographers, and nature lovers. They are a species of the bufo and come in a variety of colorful shadings. Golden toads, like the larger bufo varieties, are characterized by highly toxic skin secretions, which are highly poisonous to predators, but they can be safely handled by man. The animal life here is equally fascinating, from the ever-present squirrels to the slow-moving two-toed sloth. This variety is easy to distinguish from its three-toed cousin because of its blonde fur, especially around the face. From what you've seen so far, you're probably getting a better idea of the biological diversity of Costa Rica. In fact, Costa Ricans like to think of their country as the wildlife sanctuary of the Americas.
I think that we Costa Ricans have become aware that we're guardians of a very important treasure for all of humanity, and therefore we have a very strong sense of responsibility to preserving these areas. We would like to get to the point where every Costa Rican student is exposed to all these areas, has the opportunity to travel there, to get acquainted with them, to experience it, and we feel that this reinforces the importance of preservation and protection. And as I said, if you don't have to spend money in weapons, if you don't have to spend money in defense, then you can devote a lot more effort to protecting your natural environment. And we are committed to a society that is in peace, not only with itself and with other societies, but also with nature.
Costa Rica has more than 850 species of birds, more than in all of North America. More butterflies than Africa, 205 species of mammals, 160 species of amphibians, 218 of reptiles, and 130 species of freshwater fish. Need we say more? Leaving the mountains, it's only a short trip to the Pacific coast. Many visitors are attracted here for just one reason: big game fish. Fishing fleets operate out of several Pacific ports. The marina Playa Flamingo is one of them. Boats such as the Magic take serious anglers out on the quest for several varieties of marlin and the big Pacific sailfish. In 1991, the Magic set a world record with a catch of more than 1,400 billfish. If you ever wanted to catch a sailfish, this is the place to do it. It is not uncommon to see catches of 20 or more per day by a single boat.
Yeah, absolutely perfect.
Look at this! Jeez! Coming up!
Conservation is also practiced here. Most of the captains working on the west coast of Costa Rica see to it that sailfish and marlin are released. They don't believe in killing fish for mounting, so don't even ask.
We release all billfish with the possible exception of a world record fish. And the only fish that was killed on the Magic in last year was the Pacific world record on 2-pound test, 103-pound fish. It was caught by Riley Working. That was the only fish that died on this boat. All of the fish, if they look a little weak, we spend great care in reviving them at the side of the boat to ensure their safe rehabilitation.
You don't encourage mounting?
Not at all.
Whether you're fishing, enjoying the Pacific beaches, or taking nature tours, there are plenty of modern hotels along the west coast. Facilities such as the Playa Flamingo Hotel. And many can arrange for fishing trips, car rentals, nature tours, and provide information about the area. There are also good restaurants serving seafood and a variety of other specialties, many of them typical Costa Rican. Farther south on the Pacific coast, just outside of Capos, you'll find one of Costa Rica's most delightful areas, Manuel Antonio National Park. There are beautiful white sand beaches which slope into crystal clear waters, and they are bordered by a rich nature preserve. The park includes tropical rain and tall evergreen forests that grow right to the high tide mark. A hike along one of the nature trails may bring a glimpse of a three-toed sloth, called a perezosa by the Ticos. They're just as slow-moving as their two-toed cousins in the mountains. You'll also see plenty of iguanas. Don't worry, they won't come after you. Just don't try to grab one. It often takes a sharp eye to spot some of the other residents of the forest, such as the white-faced capuchin and squirrel monkeys. bats hanging from tree branches and palm fronds, the wolf spider which jumps its prey rather than spinning a web, and those fluorescent green tree frogs so unlike any frogs you may have seen back home. If you're headed back to San Jose from the Pacific, you won't have to go far out of your way to visit the Carrera Biological Reserve. If you're beginning to think Costa Rica has a lot of parks, you're right. Nearly 20% of the nation's lands are protected in national parks and reserves, part of the reason Costa Rica attracts so many scientists from throughout the world. Carrera is another of those ecologically diverse areas where you'll find crocodiles in the marshes and lake, and a variety of aquatic birds such as the ibis. And don't forget to look up once in a while. You might see a scarlet macaw or another equally colorful bird. Costa Rica's most remote national park is far out in the Pacific, Cocos Island, some 300 miles southwest of Punta Arenas. Be forewarned, the boats carrying visitors to the island take nearly 3 days to get there. The island is covered by an evergreen forest, and while there are campsites, there are no hotels. Most visitors overnight on the boats. One attraction is the diving, but it's not for the faint-hearted. Hammerhead and white-tip sharks congregate here. You might see hundreds of them. Giant rays glide gracefully over the coral heads, and if you're really lucky, you might get to swim with the true giant of the sea, the whale shark. They are slow-moving plankton eaters, and despite their incredible size, are of little danger to a diver. Cocos is also reputed to be the place of 3 major pirate treasures, but some 500 treasure expeditions to the island over the years have turned up nothing more than a few doubloons. And so ends our video visit to Costa Rica. In a half hour, we have barely scratched the surface of what this wonderful land has to offer. There are far more mountains, volcanoes, and rainforests to be visited, birds, animals, and flowers to be seen, museums to be explored, friendly people to be met. We hope we've piqued your interest, and you'll want to visit Costa Rica and see it all for yourselves. Just remember, the Ticos are proud of their efforts to preserve the rainforests and other sensitive areas. When visiting, be a conservationist yourself.
This program was produced and licensed by International Video Projects Incorporated of Lakeland, Florida. For additional information about this program and other programs we offer, please write International Video Projects, 6700 South Florida Avenue, Suite 28, Lakeland, Florida, 33813-3312, or call toll-free 800-852-0662. Our collection of programs may also be reviewed on our website, www.videoprojects.tv. Thanks for watching.